Camille Scott, and this is Xeno Enthusiast. For today's anomaly, I met up with a friend at a brewery, and I love beer, although I normally don't drink it because I feel like it makes me heavy, but I really do enjoy it. So I met up with a dear friend, Frank, at Poseidon Brewery here in Ventura, and I tried 6 beers, a little 6-beer sampler. But I got to thinking about the microbrew industry and how it's really blossomed over the last decade or so. But I went to school in Chico State, which is in Chico, California, and that is the home of the Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. And now Sierra Nevada, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they were pioneers in the microbrew industry. And there's a fun little story about the founders of the Sierra Nevada Brewery that I'd like to tell you. The founder of the Sierra Nevada Brewery's father loved to brew home beer. And when he was about 14, he started helping his dad creating these home brews. And so when he was in his late teens, maybe early 20s, he went on a backpacking tour all over Europe, riding the Eurorails in Europe. And at some point in a town in Germany somewhere, he found a defunct brewery that had all this antique equipment and ended up buying all those brewery parts, and they shipped them over piece by piece to Chico, California. And that's how they started the Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, in the original copper vats that he bought. And you can still see this on display in Chico now. And that's how Sierra Nevada was founded as a microbrewery, and they were pioneers that helped a lot of other breweries get into business, like Fat Tire Ale. And the Fat Tire Ale story is, it's named after these biking trips in Belgium, where Belgium is a really small, super flat country where you can ride these bicycles around and go brewery to brewery. And I think there's over 300 breweries in this small little country. So the Fat Tire Ale was named after those tours that they did in Belgium, and Sierra Nevada really helped that brewery come into fruition. The story that came up at today's visit to the brewery was the story of how Bud Light was born. I didn't know if you knew that Budweiser is actually a Czech company. Apparently the American division came to talk to the brewers in the Czech Republic about creating a beer that had less calories, because America had just sprung up with this fitness craze and they were losing market share because, you know, beer has a lot of calories in it. And so they asked them to come up with a light beer, a beer that had less calories. And so the Czechs tried all these different things and they really couldn't figure it out. And finally the Americans, you know, gave up. And according to legend, the Americans were at the airport ready to go home when the Czechs showed up with this light beer to have them try it. They tried it. Wow, that tastes great. You know, how did you do it? What did you do to make it work? And they said they added water to it. I'm here at Poseidon Brewery, and they just moved 2 doors down, and it is absolutely gorgeous inside. And I just ordered from the food truck, and so I'm going to show you the little 6-beer sampler that I had, and I'm also going to show you the little beautiful tastings from the food truck. These are the kebabs, and this is the gyro. This is the Bubblehead Blood Orange Pale Ale. So far, it's my favorite. And my new favorite is the Grapefruit IPA. So drinking beer is definitely an ancient tradition, but one of my favorite things about it are the conversations that people have around the table. And today I met with my friend Frank. He is a musician, and we got into talking about deep listening and how there are different kinds of audiences. And as a musician, he can tell who in the audience is really connected and really listening. And he talked about it as them taking a flight together, how he could see who in the audience was really there with him and on board, and how he would really play from his heart for that person, which reminded me of a little piece that I saw with Coleman Barks, who is known for being a scholar of Rumi's poetry, and translating Rumi's poetry into English that is modern and relatable. And I remember seeing this little piece on like a public access TV station where Coleman Barks was talking about the art of deep listening, And that's listening with the ear deep inside your chest, really listening with your heart instead of just listening superficially or talking at the same time that the musicians are playing. And it reminded me of a story that my grandfather told me. I'm half Puerto Rican, and my grandfather grew up in a little village in Puerto Rico. And he talked about how nowadays, he said, nowadays you kids, you take music for granted because it's recorded. You can just buy it and play it over and over again as much as you want or listen to it on the radio. But he said that when he was a kid, music was really ephemeral. It was really only in the moment. You had to be there listening. And once it was over, it was over. And he told me a story about how a cousin of his had some kind of severe heartbreak because he was jilted by his girlfriend or his lover. And he went to the local bar and got really drunk and then went home and went onto the piano and just played a storm on the piano. He really poured his lament into the piano. And that the piano was upstairs on the second floor, and people in the village gathered around at the foot of the balcony to listen to his lament. And after hearing that story, I never thought of live music the same. I always stop and try to listen, like Coleman Barks says, listen with a deep ear in my chest to the artist's piece. And I also think that this is important. A colleague of mine, Harpreet, just brought this up on a little piece that she did recently about listening without the intention of interrupting or getting your point across, but just really being a deep listener to the person that is sharing their story. And sometimes I get so excited about what I want to say next that I end up stepping on them instead of, just allowing them to finish and really being a deep listener. I'm Camille Scott, and this is Xeno Enthusiast.